Hello, welcome to Educationally Speaking. My name is Sarah Davis, and I'm a communications specialist with Oakland Schools and the host of this podcast. The goal of Educationally Speaking is to focus on important topics related to education here in Oakland County, Michigan. Thank you so much for listening in. Today we're going to dive into the topic of teacher induction, which basically is supporting and guiding educators who are in the early stages of their careers. In this podcast, we will be introducing you to a new program Oakland Schools launched in 2016 called the New Teacher Induction Program, or NTIP for short. The purpose of NTIP is to provide induction services for new teachers in participating Oakland County districts. Here with us today, we have Dr. Christopher Lee, Oakland Schools Teacher Induction and Social Studies Education Consultant, and Dr. Andrea Zellner, Oakland Schools Literacy Consultant. Andrea and Chris have garnered state and national interest in their work with new teachers. They have presented their research on NTIP at national conferences like the American Educational Research Association and the University Council for Educational Administration. They have also worked to build a network of practitioners from across Michigan to advocate for and support the work of new teacher induction. Chris and Andrea, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I'm eager to learn about this new program, and in fact, it was when I was promoting our first podcast, Bullying 101, with Dr. Julie McDaniel on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, that Chris, you reached out and thought NTIP would be a perfect podcast topic for Educationally Speaking. So I'm happy to have both of you here today.
Yeah, we've been slowly rolling out the program over the last 3 years and have invited new districts to participate as the needs of the districts have aligned with our program goals.
That's awesome. Well, with that in mind, can you first give us an overview of NTIP?
Absolutely. On our team, we have 4 Oakland Schools consultants, myself and 3 other very talented consultants. First one is Andrea Zellner, sitting beside me here. The second is Stacy Woodward. She is one of our disciplinary literacy consultants and social studies education consultants. And then Ashlyn Curry, who's also a literacy consultant. The program is designed around 4 basic parts, the first of which are quarterlies. And quarterlies are whole program gatherings where we invite every new teacher that's in the districts that we're working with to come and gather together. And the way we think about it is that it's networking around instructional improvement. So we want new teachers to learn from one another across districts and across buildings. The biggest example of that, the best example of that we had was one time we had 2 special education teachers, one from each district that we were serving at the time, and one of them was a brand new teacher and was asked to create a whole program out of nothing. And so it was a very difficult time for that teacher. And so that teacher met with another teacher who taught the same kind of special education program in another district, and they had a lot of support. So this teacher from the first district said, "Can I come observe you? And can I bring my principal? And can I bring my teacher consultant?" They went and visited, and the first teacher really improved their practice as a result. And that's the kind of networking that we're looking to generate in these quarterly meetings.
Yeah, the next part of the program is something that we call huddles, which were originally content area or grade level groups. And this year we've rebranded them as Huddles Plus so that teachers can also engage with online virtual learning, either self-paced or synchronous. And so those have really expanded the opportunities for teachers to get exactly the type of learning that they need right when they need it.
And then the third part of the program is there's a coaching part of the program. Now, initially in the first year, we were a small program. We were only in 2 districts. We had 25 new teachers. And the consultants provided direct instructional coaching services for those teachers. But we realized pretty quick the program was going to expand and that the need for coaching was going to expand exponentially and that we didn't have the capacity to do that. So what we decided to do is we decided to start training coaches in the districts to do that work. And that work has been slowly growing. In the first year that we did that, we had about 25 coaches from 2 districts. And this year we had about 40 coaches from 2 or 3 districts. So that work has been sort of slowly growing. And we're also thinking about how do we integrate that work into coaching work that's already happening in Oakland Schools. What kind of services are we already providing? So for example, Marty Chafee, who's one of our leadership consultants, does a lot of this work with principals. And so we're trying to align our work with other work that's happening in Oakland Schools in that regard.
Yeah, and then the last bit of our program is that we do a lot of research on what is happening with our new teachers. So one question we had was about new teachers' beliefs and how that impacts their teaching. And then we looked at how their social networks might be influencing those beliefs. So we have some outside university partners who work with us in surveying the new teachers and interviewing the new teachers, and also with the analysis. So then we publish that and share those findings widely with the educational communities that we can learn together.
Okay, great. So part of the name of this project is induction, and I have to be honest, as someone who isn't as familiar with education terms, what exactly is it that you mean by teacher induction?
Well, I think the first thing to realize is that Michigan has a state law that says if you're a new teacher that's untenured, doesn't have tenure in a district, you have to have a mentor. And so where this program originally started is that Mike Yoakum, our assistant superintendent, came to me and said, we have this law in the books. A lot of districts are providing mentors to new teachers, but that kind of work they're doing is really involved around socialization. Like, hey, here's where the copier's at. Here's the secretary you need to go to if you have a question about your pay stub. But what we're interested in is we're interested in instructional improvement. So socialization is really important. It needs to happen. And we think that work that's already happening in the districts is great, and we want to support that. But we want to take it a step further. We want to help new teachers get better at their practice, get better at the instruction that's going on in their classrooms. So there's that element of it too. There's also a second element that the state requires, that new teachers in their first 3 years have 90 additional hours of professional learning. So if you're a teacher in Michigan, you have to get recertified every 5 years. That's 30 hours per year. For new teachers in their first 3 years, it's an additional 30 hours. So it's a total of 60 hours in their first 3 years they got to get recertified and to meet the state requirement. So one of the big things that we want to do is that we really want to make sure that new teachers have, as Andrea said, the way to get those 30 hours that makes sense to them, that works for their schedule, and that also helps them grow in the specific area of their practice they need to get better at. Lastly, we think about the program as 5 years, and in terms of this program, those first 3 years are really focused on getting those hours. But we now have people, because we've been doing this program now, we're in our 4th year, we now have teachers who are in their 4th and 5th year, and we're thinking about how do we train them for teacher leadership as well, right? We want to move them on from being a neophyte into actually helping other teachers. So we've started to ask some of these veterans of the program if they can begin leading huddle meetings, leading parts of the quarterly meetings, and we've been seeing some really good results so far.
Okay, and I think that, we've all heard about teacher retention right now and how important it is in the state of Michigan. So can you talk about how NTIP plays a role in that and why this program is important at this moment?
Right, so new teachers tend to leave the profession within the first 5 years. There's a lot of research around teacher attrition at that moment in their career. The new Teacher Induction Program enters into that space to really think about how do we retain teachers in a way that sustains them professionally so that they don't leave the profession and that they don't leave the buildings that they're in. One of the things that we're seeing coming out of teacher preparation programs is that they just don't have the students graduating out of their programs. Those programs have shrunk by 70% over the last decade, which is a really remarkable drop. So the teachers that we have coming out of those teacher prep programs and placing into classrooms really need to stay. We have a substitute crisis in Michigan. We have lots of students who are being taught by long-term subs. So having a certified teacher in a classroom is a really beautiful thing to have going on for you as a district. So we want to make sure that those teachers don't feel burnt out, that they feel supported, that when they have questions, they know where to get those answers and resources so they can sustain their practice and move through that very tumultuous first 5 years and into a long-term career for themselves.
And if I could also jump in and add to that, there's also sort of some cyclical and some structural things going on in the teacher labor market as well. So cyclically, what happens with teacher labor markets is as the economy gets better, fewer people want to be teachers. And as the economy gets worse, more people want to be teachers. Teaching provides sort of a stable profession for people in an unstable market. What we're seeing right now is because the economy is still pretty good and it's been growing for a long time, is that fewer people want to be teachers. But there's also a structural component where the profession is generally under attack. The prestige of teaching has been going down for, I think we could say, decades. And so we see not only are we at a low point cyclically, but we're also at a low point structurally as well. And what that means is that we need to install systems for teacher induction and support before we see a flood of new teachers come back to the market whenever the cycle picks back up again.
And Andrea, I think it was you who mentioned the research component of NTIP earlier in the program. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. We have a lot of research that shows that professional learning communities can impact teachers' beliefs about teaching. And we also know that new teachers in their teacher prep programs are really thinking about equity and social justice, and that's a definite thread from all of our major universities who are giving us teachers into Oakland County. So what we were questioning was, okay, so now we have a teacher who's brand new, who has this developing sense of who they are as a human being and as a new professional. And what happens to those beliefs as a result of interacting with veteran teachers, interacting within their buildings and the culture of those buildings? So really the question was, we believe that there might be some changes around those beliefs, but we don't really have the data to support that. So the research was really looking at, who do you go to for help? So that was the first question. How often do you speak with them? Who are you naming as your support people? And then we also surveyed the people that they named as their helper and just tried to look how similar or different are those new teacher beliefs around equity and social justice as opposed to the veteran teachers that they are going to. And we found some really interesting data. We found that their networks really change a lot over the first year. We found that they still go back to their student teaching placement, their mentor from that student teaching placement, that they have a really strong relationship. So that was one person that they really nominated, and also their closest colleague within the building. So usually if I'm a third grade teacher, I'm going to go to my third grade teaching team member or my special ed teaching team member. So those are the folks that the new teachers are really interacting with. What was missing were more formal leaders that we would expect to see. So surprisingly, you're not seeing department heads named. You're not seeing principals named within those networks. So that's really interesting to us because as an organization thinking through, we have all these structures in place for formal leadership. Those leaders may not be influencing our newest members of our profession, and what consequences does that have? What does that mean for how we develop leadership as an organization and how we support those new teachers as well?
Okay, so how can people find out more information, or how can a district get involved in NTIP and use its resources?
Well, first of all, they can email us. My email is christopher.lee@oakland.k12.mi.us, and Andrea's email is
Andrea.Zellner@oakland.k12.mi.us.
2 L's.
2 L's.
And we were happy to talk to any districts about this work. We want to be clear, though, this would be for school year 2020-2021. This year, we're already rolling with our programs, and we would want to make sure that any new districts come in would be fully supported and integrated into the program. But we think that planning work can begin as soon as January, February of 2020.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, because you want to make sure that you have all the structural supports there. So we meet with human resources, we meet with assistant supes or superintendents, we meet with the union presidents to make sure that all of those structures that might be touching teachers in a formal way are ready to support this more informal way of interacting. And the other thing we should know is that we have our own hashtag.
And that is?
Hashtag NTIP in OC.
So that's NTIP in Oakland County.
Well, thank you, Chris and Andrea. I'm really excited to see NTIP develop, and be sure to keep us updated here because I'd love to keep this conversation on the importance of teacher retention in our state going.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you again, and thanks to all of you for listening. And remember to be sure to follow NTIP on Twitter at NTIP in OC. That's NTIPINOC. You can also find all of this information in the Educationally Speaking show notes. This podcast was brought to you by Oakland Schools Intermediate School District's Communication Services. Oakland Schools is a regional service agency that offers support services to school personnel which are better delivered regionally and provide cost, size, and quality advantages to those we serve. You can find more information on Oakland Schools at oakland.k12.mi.us. I have been your host for this podcast, Sarah Davis, and you can find this and future episodes of Educationally Speaking on Anchor FM. We hope you will join us for our next episode, where we will continue to bring you topics that affect every student every day.